Imaginary.
Welcome to the Radio Horror Show. Here in the studio, not the studio, but the library of where I watch a lot of the films I do for reviews. This is my roommate's cathedral of good, bad, and ugly horror movies, but I digress. What we watched recently, Imaginary, the new Blum House film in the long library of Blum House movies, which continues into 2024 to possibly try and dominate the box office every time they put one out, has recently come out. If you check out my podcast with actress Mel Heflin, Supernatural Creatures and Lore, I did a review of the supernatural versions of imaginary creatures and what they are and their lore and their history and what they come from. They create some new words for imaginary characters in this movie, which is interesting. But I digress. We're here to talk about Imaginary, the new Blumhouse horror thriller.
Yes, Imaginary, directed by Jeff Wadlow and also written by Jeff Wadlow, Jason Ormland, and Greg Erb. It stars DeWanda Weiss as Jessica, Tegan Burns Taylor, Piper Braun as Alice, Betty Buckley as Gloria, Tom Payne as Max, and Veronica Falcon as Dr. Soto. Now, the plot summary on IMDb is this. A woman returns to her childhood home to discover that the imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him. I would go with that. I would also say that if you want Ted's saucy, naughty English cousin named Chauncey that ends up being an evil bing bong, then go watch Imaginary. And basically, that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, Chris and I were talking earlier about this. I had some issues with this film, but I will just say right now, it's fine. It's not, I don't think it's going to be on any best or worst list. There's a number of plausibility factors in the script. There's a number of continuity issues in the film. The production design is actually when you get to a certain area is fantastic, definitely influenced by MC Escher, Labyrinth, and Beetlejuice, with actually a number of factors with that storyline. A lot of Beetlejuice I end up seeing. But one of the things that really sets this film apart is DeWanda Weiss. Now, you may recognize her. DeWanda Weiss plays Jessica. She's going home or she's going to her childhood home that she had to leave when she was 5. The movie gets into that later, so then it becomes very confusing that why would you want to come back to this childhood home? Wanda Weiss, though, that you may know from Jurassic World Dominion, her performance is fantastic. And honestly, I think that every performance, maybe not every, but the majority of the performances in this film are actually like spot on. You have teenagers acting like crappy teenagers. You have small children that Piper Braun, who plays Alice, she does a great performance and she's one to know. But the anchor of this film is DeWanda Weiss. I remember seeing her and she honestly could not get her out of my mind in Jurassic World Dominion. I feel like she just commands a scene whenever she's in it. She is a star on the rise, and I want her, and I want, at least with this film, since this is her starring role, I want more studios and people who are empowered that can put her in bigger movies to pay attention, because this is someone you need to give a movie to. She is just this old Hollywood like star. Like, every single thing that she's every single scene that she's in, it's believable. She's captivating. She does a great performance. And I liked her, throughout the film. There's a number of things in this film that don't really make sense. Again, I don't know if we should spoil a little bit. There's a reason why Jess had to leave the house at 5, and the fact that she's coming back 25 years later, I don't really understand. I mean, that seems like there's a lot of trauma going on there. There's also other trauma-filled instances in the film that don't make much sense other than sort of like a trauma bonding between Justice's stepchildren and herself, which are here nor there. There's a number of continuity pieces, but the one thing, Chauncey is, a great character. I think that when you get to in practical effects, when he's not just an imaginary entity and it becomes, a little bit supposed to be more scary. Honestly, you guys, I didn't find this movie scary at all. I thought the jump scares were very predictable, like every single one. But the practical effects when you get Chauncey when he's more of a bigger entity looked really good, honestly. And there's a scene with the light music box. It's in the trailer if you see it, that goes around. That honestly was one of my favorite scenes. I know we knew it was going to happen at the end, and yet I was looking forward to it. It captivated me throughout the scene. Yes, Chris.
Do you know who played Chauncey in the giant bear mode, which FYI is in the trailer for a very quick second? You see a giant monster bear. Do you know who that was in the costume?
No, I mean it's in IMDb, but I don't know.
Dane D Wayo. He was a former pro basketball player who got injured, I think, and then started becoming a stuntman. He made a huge performance recently in a little Hulu movie called Prey. He was the Predator.
Oh, very cool.
All 6'4" of him. I mean, the guy definitely grew up to become a basketball player, and then went on to become like big freaking monster to scare people and tower over young, smaller, 5 foot something, women. Which obviously he's now got two movies where he's playing the heavy bad guy against women, extremely resilient women, but still towers over them to show the imposing size of his figure in a costume. Which I can't imagine that bear costume is fun to wear.
The teeth on the bear costume are honestly the thing to watch, kids. So look out for that. Now, Jeff
Bigger teeth. Do you
Wadlow,
think the teeth of the bear costume are scarier than the teeth on the dune worm?
I don't it's totally different. That's a whole like different pendulum swinging. You got one of the best films of the decade to this one, so I don't know. But Jeff Wadlow, the director, he also did Fantasy Island. So
Oh,
he's very familiar with plausible scripts.
that's a Blum movie
Plausible
too, right?
scripts. There's so many holes in Fantasy Island that
Sure.
it's hard to explain. So
Go
when I
watch our
found
review of Fantasy Island from 3 years ago for more information on that.
yes. So yeah, what I think my number one worst film of 2020. So
Might have been,
yeah,
yeah, it was just before the pandemic.
does this film rank up to that? No, I think this film is not as bad as Fantasy Island. I do think that he has a knack for taking certain stars and like, elevating them, to like this is their first starring role. Maybe it's not going to be great, but you at least see the meat on, the bones of what they can do acting wise. I know he did that. He also, I believe, directed Truth or Dare with Lucy Hale, who also was in Fantasy Island. I thought she was great in Truth or Dare. Maggie Q, I thought was great in Fantasy Island. Again, did not like the film, but I thought she was great, and she's gone on to do more like starring roles. I feel like after that. So I don't know. Is this a stepping stone that maybe this isn't maybe it's not necessarily a great film, but at least you can see what these actresses can do, and then they can go on to other things. Hey, if that's what that has to happen, fine. I honestly was a little worried, well, more than worried, when I saw this on Thursday night. Usually I get press screenings and we see them ahead of time. This is one of the only films this year that had no press screenings whatsoever, at least in Chicago. So that worried me. I also know that a number of some films like Night Swim, they had press screenings. They did not go well. The press just eviscerated them before it came out. So I was thinking, hey, maybe they're not doing that because they don't want to, take the risk of it not making any money or it getting like 1 stars before it even comes out because people are like, oh, I heard this is horrible, so I'm not going to see it. Or what they could do is chalk up that money to more marketing, because the trailer is actually not bad. I watched the trailer after I saw the film. Note, there is a scene in the trailer that isn't in the film at all, and I thought we were past that from the 90s. So this is why, again, kids, I never watch trailers. I never read anything or know anything before I go into a film. The trailer, I think, was scarier than the film. There are a few things in the film with insects. If you have arachnophobia, be careful. You may get really scared of that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe it's like if they're gonna bump up the trailers, have people just see that and go see the movie, then they could probably make their production value back in a weekend. I mean, this production cost $13 million. I was actually shocked at how much that was, because I think what is it, The Purge was only 7. Now I know that's been 10-15 years and stuff like that, but I mean, look, I'm not saying that, the actors and actresses that are in this film, I think Betty Buckley is one of the only ones that people may recognize, at least from my generation, because of Eight is Enough and different M. Night Shyamalan films. She's usually the matriarch mentor, that it's like, oh, let me tell you, and I know exactly what the secrets are and all this stuff. Okay, fine. I still don't think that any of these people are getting like $1 million for any of these roles. So to see 13 million was very surprising to me. I don't know if there's been a lot of recuts. I do think that there's when I was talking about the production design, that definitely saw the influence from MC Escher and Beetlejuice Labyrinth. Maybe that is a significant amount of it, but still, that seems way too much for this small production. I mean, it is a Blum House, and there's basically 3 locations that it's shot in: the house, this place called the Never Ever, and then a nursing home kind of home for this person that you see, and that's it. That's really sort of it. Maybe like an apartment. So I don't know. But if that is the case where they're not doing the previews so people can give it like the thumbs up, thumbs down, blah blah blah, good for you. I mean, 13 million, they possibly could make it this weekend, or at least 2. So there you go. And I think that if DeWanda Weiss was one to helm a sequel, which there's a possibility. I mean, it's an imaginary friend that is evil and could come back. I don't know. I could see this, but in any case, if they did do a sequel, this also is the type of franchise where you don't need to have necessarily anyone come back from the first one and then start anew with a core, something kind of like Freddy Krueger, where you have like a core antagonist that in a whole new world that you're dealing with.
Right.
Look, I definitely would not pay the full money to see this. There's a lot of other things that are out there right now. I mean, it's Oscar season. As far as horror goes, I would invest in Shudder and maybe watch some of those movies there. I don't think I really don't think this is gonna make anybody's top 10. DeWanda
Right.
Weiss, I think, can make a top 10 for me, as far as I want to see her in more things. As well as Tegan Burns. I mean, look, she's playing a shitty teenager. I think she is a shitty teenager, like the age wise, I thought was great. And so was Piper Braun. So I mean, again, as I said, I gotta get up for performances, practical effects, and production design. But other than that, it's not. I right now I can't say it's gonna make my worst of the year. It's not. It's definitely not gonna make my best, because I really feel like they could have done a lot more with some of the things going on, and just the plot. There's so many things in the script that just don't make sense. Tom Payne, nice to see you out of The Walking Dead and that series you starred in Fox. Your character was somewhat insignificant, so I think when you went on tour, that was fine. No big deal to me. But
think
tell us what you think when you see it and if we're right or wrong. Chris, what did you think?
I think Tom Payne is a poor man's Sebastian Shaw sometimes. They have very similar looks, especially if you saw Sebastian in. You don't think so? I do. I've always
No.
seen them and going,
Oh,
I
Sebastian
just feel like they.
Shaw is like the epitome of perfect male.
Yes,
Tom Payne is like his third cousin twice removed. Like he's
they
not
got a
bad, don't let me, but
they got
no.
a look. They have a look that's very similar in certain films.
Mm.
Like his Bucky look, not his crew cut look, but like his Bucky look or his what was the other one? What was the Tommy and Tommy and Pamela TV show? I don't know. I just always saw the two of them going, God, I just feel like they got Tom Payne because they couldn't get Sebastian Shaw. But I digress. The I like the team up that happens at the end, like in the third. I guess it's called the third quarter of the movie. Third, the climax of the film, the big like, okay, now we gotta put aside our differences and team up and do this thing. I really liked that more, and I really wish that had been like a strengthening of the film. But obviously, they needed to build up something throughout the film. I was a little freaked out by a certain surprise character, which is kind of like why there's why do the daughters live with dad and the stepmom? Well, there's a big explanation for it, and it's I wish that had gotten into a little bit more, but that's fine. We don't need everything explained to us in a horror movie. Um, you're right, 100%. The trailer was creepier than the movie itself. I didn't go into this movie at any time afraid. I may have jumped one time, but it was only because of dumb jump scare crap, which is like, okay, I would love Jason Blum, next time I have an opportunity to talk to you, which I only missed last year, and I will definitely not try and miss again because I could have had 3 interviews with him. It'd been like, hey, dude, make me a promise. No more jump scares in your movies, okay? It's cheap, it's cliche, and it's annoying as hell. And you did it in 3 Halloween films. But I digress. um, this is just another catalog in the Blumhouse library of films. Whether or not it will turn into a classic one day, who's to say? It's not going to become the Megan that it was last year. Megan was a hit right out of the gate, and then it ran all the way to the $100 million mark, shocking everybody. Because you look at our review of that, and we talk about how we both went to that going, ugh, and then whoa, blown away. I didn't leave this theater with a different reaction. I went in this theater going, okay, the trailer looked cute. Okay, I'm not all that. I don't feel that different. The trailers I saw before this movie made me more impressed, like Tarot, The First Omen, possibly The New Strangers. I don't know. I'm gonna reserve myself on that because I'm such a huge fan of the original, and I know Kip Weeks. So I digress. Back to Imaginary, another staple in the Blumhouse library of films. I mean, it will make back the box office, and that's what Jason Blum is doing correctly. He's making low budget horror movies that aren't costing like $250 million, like whatever movie is coming out later this year that people are shocked cost $250 million to make, and they're like, why? Godzilla cost $15 million to make, people, and it's Godzilla, for God's sakes, no pun intended. But I digress. Maybe we should start taking more chapters out of Jason Blum's book and the Japanese book on how to make a horror monster movie, because that's incredible. But I digress. It's a great. It's worth seeing if you saw the trailer. Otherwise, you can wait for it to come out on streaming, which it will be very soon. Um, I'm don't forget to check out the rest of the videos here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel, also on Katie's channel.
I'd like to say something though. When we
Okay,
talk about like low budget horror, I mean, anytime you get into the million, I understand in Hollywood standards and all that, but kids, believe me, there's honestly some far lower budget, like micro budget horror that actually you give it a couple extra tens of thousands, it could be up to Imaginary's level. Like I mean, no, when we talk about like lower grade and stuff like that, I mean, like I said, I think The Purge was like $7 million, something like that.
right.
That
And his
is,
first what was Blumhouse's first movie? The Paranormal Activity, right? $15,000 it cost to make. And granted, that's just a camera on a swivel,
yeah,
putting people in bed. I get it. There's nothing great about Paranormal Activity that needs a budget. It's people sitting in bed going, "Oh, the wind blew the sheet," and then for an hour and a half, we're scared of Katie screaming.
yeah. But it's one of those things, it's effective. And one of the aspects of Imaginary, like I don't know if we want to get into spoilers with this, but I
No,
feel
no, we don't have time either, unfortunately.
all right. Well, anyway, there's just a lot of plausible things in it. But yeah, just I want to talk about with low budget horror. This is I mean, it is called indie horror because it's under or it's indie film because it's under 20 million. But
Well, we could have an entire video, and make it like something lengthy instead of like the normal crunch time we try and do a review for of like picking like 10 films and their ridiculous budgets and talking about 10 films that have a really small budget and how much better they are than those other 10 films. And they could be any 10 films that just had an over bloated budget, and we could do an entire video talking about those 10 films,
I mean, maybe, sure.
leaving out the Avengers or Star Wars, things like that that make complete sense. But I digress. Um, Again, check out the rest of the videos here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel. Check out Katie's channel as well. What's your channel called?
It's Blonde in Front on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
And what's the other show that you're on?
Oh, I haven't actually done that one in a while.
Oh, okay.
Postmortem Radio.
Gotcha. All right. And I will be on the Radio Horror throughout the month of March with Women in Horror Month. We have all sorts of neat guests coming on. We had one recently, director Christina Shine, and we have some great authors coming on as well. Check out the new Radio Horror Facebook page. Don't go find the old one, but the new Radio Horror Facebook page has a link to who the new guests coming on up on the show, as well as some other interesting ones throughout March and April, including from PAX East coming up, the video game convention here in Boston. Thank you, everyone.